Yes, we can start.
Okay, so a little bit about me for context that I want you to take into consideration while you're listening to what I'm saying here. Right? I'm talking about my experiences specifically at Warner, but I've been doing this a while. My first head of config job was 21 years ago, and I've been doing exactly the same job. It's like Taco Bell. Same ingredients, just made up differently depending on what you order. So I've done telecommunications, I've done banking, I've done media. This is specifically talking about my time at Warner, which is 5 years, 7 months. And so quick question, right? I bet I know the answer. What do you guys know about the broadcast industry?
Switch the TV, watch the channel, and...
Pretty much the same as ServiceNow.
Yeah.
Right? So not all customizations are bad. That's what Asher was saying, right? ServiceNow knows nothing about broadcast. It knows nothing about the movie industry. It knows nothing about satellite uplinks. It knows nothing about video transcoders.
And there are some specific products that are meant to handle it.
MESM, Media and Entertainment Service Management Module. Welcome to the guy.
No, but outside.
I suggested that too.
Outside of ServiceNow, different.
Outside of ServiceNow, yeah, tons outside ServiceNow, right? So ServiceNow does have a module actually called MESM. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I've moved from job to job in my career, configuration management jobs mainly, for 20 years. And my personal motivator, the thing that gets me up in the morning, is I like to move into an industry where ServiceNow hasn't got a clue what it's doing. I find that really fun. There's no CI classes. The relationship types make no sense to broadcast people, for instance, right, which is the world I come from. And this story that I'm going to go through is going to tell you how I changed my view, specifically at Warner, change my view on how I do config, and then how I will take that into any other role that I go into. Are we nearly there yet? It's my first slide. As a parent of 2 kids, well, they're adults now, but whenever you take them anywhere, you'd be 2 minutes in the car, they say, are we nearly there yet? Right? How familiar is this to you guys? Right?
Very familiar.
Very familiar. So in the world of CMDB, right? You work for a company, maybe it's Volvo, maybe it's somebody else, right? And what do you care about? Well, I'm going to go get ServiceNow because I want to do change management and incident management. That's all I care about. I want incident management. I want to stand that up first. And then I'm going to do CMDB next. So I'm going to go set up my incident management, right? Yeah, but I don't have CIs. I don't have services. I don't have relationships. I don't have business applications. I don't have I have none of this stuff. But I want incident management, right? And then somebody realizes you're going to need a CMDB. And as the config guy, they say to you, is the CMDB ready yet? Are we nearly there yet? Yeah, spoiler alert, probably not. And probably never will be. CMDBs, right? We all think of them as a technical resource. And being the head of the config team, the guy who puts out the strategy, the thing that probably limits the company the most is your CMDB. Now, that's a really career-killing thing for me to say, right? But it's true. The thing that probably kills your business better than anything else is the way that we as config people, or technical people, or platform people, we think about what the role of the CMDB is, right? Now this is a really weird mind shift. Here's a guy standing in front of you who's done CMDBs for 20 years and he's saying, well, think about them differently, right? We all know that it's potentially a list of the things, the components that deliver our services. We know exactly what it's supposed to be. You know, I've got to represent my physical, my logical, my ephemeral items that deliver my business capabilities, my services, right? I need to know my cloud infrastructure. I need to know my Kubernetes clusters. I need to know all of that stuff, right? But it's more than that. Try and think of it in the abstract, and this is interesting. So as a config guy, I mean, how many people here have worked in the config space or in the ServiceNow space, right? And you hear criticism, I don't trust the CMDB. The data isn't accurate. Why don't you have my enter technology here? Why haven't you got my EC2s? That's the one that kills me, right? Why haven't you got where are my EC2s? Where are my Kubernetes clusters? Why have you only got, where's that virtual machine that's running on that vCenter, right? You know, we've got a vCenter over here. Okay, like I'm literally scanning nearly 100 of your vCenters, and you stood up another one. You didn't go through change control, and you're blaming me that you stood up a vCenter that I didn't know about? Why am I getting the kicking? We're going to talk about how we buy your colleagues in service management a beer for free later. It's always the config team that's at taking the kick, right? So think about your CMDB differently, right? It's the thing underneath the water that nobody should really care about. And you know you're doing a good job when nobody talks about the CMDB. If everybody's talking about it, it's the hot topic in your company, it's probably the thing that needs some work, right? So we go from concept to technical in a minute, right? ServiceNow is an ecosystem. We all do the thing that we know we're supposed to do as technical people. We stand up a platform, we look at our foundation, CMDB, we set up our foundation data, we get our core company table data, maybe we subscribe to the content delivery service, we normalize our company names, we get our product models sorted, we do deduplication of our CIs, we set up attestation. Someone raised a question about attestation earlier, right? Maybe we set up attestation. Once we've got attestation, we move on to certification of data after you've attested that it exists, right? It's all technical. Why am I doing any of this stuff? Why am I here? Like, what's the reason that I'm putting all this stuff? Now, context. Talk about sizes. Warner's CMDB, sitting around somewhere around 24, 25 million CIs at the moment. Discovery schedules. So we had to implement a heck of a lot of discovery schedules really fast, cover a lot of stuff. We had at one point nearly 1,500 discovery schedules. Nuts, right? Why on earth would you do that? Move into an industry you don't understand, learn new stuff, and then shoehorn the platform to make it fit. Why did we do that? Well, now they're down to, 900,000 schedules. Cut it right down, works out to be more efficient. Newsflash, the reason you do that in a broadcast company is what makes the money in TV or broadcast? Anyone know?
Advertising.
Advertising, right? None of the rest really matter. Well, that's true. And affiliate sales, actually. We could talk about that. But yeah, advertising. So if you want to scan, so think about Warner. Warner's one of the biggest companies that you know nothing about. You know that they make movies, and you probably know they own a few TV channels. They also own magazines and publishing companies. They own animation. They do a lot of affiliate sales. So if you've ever watched something, this is a Netflix original, or this is an Apple original, look at the credits. Quite often you'll see Warner tucked in there somewhere. So a lot of those Apple originals are actually produced by Warner. A lot of the Netflix originals are produced by Warner, right? So we sell that stuff. But advertising, you're absolutely right, is the thing that generates all the cash. So when do you scan your broadcast network, for instance? Because it's broadcasting 24 hours a day. You have to sit and you think, well, what pays the most money? Probably the news on CNN advertising slot. So around 10 o'clock, somewhere in the US, in the evening, is when people are watching the most news. So you don't want to be scanning or going anywhere near that network at 10 o'clock, right? How do you do that? Okay, well I can scan here, then there's a commercial break, so I'll have to stop. And then I can scan here, and then there's a commercial break, and then I can scan. That's why there's schedules, right? All of this stuff sits under the surface. All under the surface. Why are we doing it? Well, where do we start? Identify the potential of your platform. What's the thing you can actually do with it? And then set yourself some goals. Let's be honest. We're all familiar with service management, ITIL, Copperfits, COBIT, whichever the platform, service management platform you're using is, right? We all know this stuff. Why are we doing it? Because we want good data. You don't get a prize for suggesting good data. We all know that's why we're supposed to be doing it, right? Happy stakeholders. How many of you who are working anywhere near platform config have got happy stakeholders and don't have someone to complain? Right, harder than you think. Stakeholders are really hard to please.
Are we talking about the myths? Yeah? These are myths, that each bracket is a myth.
Yeah, kind of, right? So,
Right? Happy stakeholders is the opposite. Happy and stakeholder.
Exactly, right? So you know the word happy, you know the word stakeholder.
Stakeholders are never happy.
Why is this crazy guy standing up at the front and saying happy stakeholders, right? Because we never met him.
Right.
Happy management.
No, it's another myth.
No, easier than you think. Make the management look good. Understand and speak their language. And translate that into technology on your CMDB, in your service mapping, in your integrations, and how you build that platform, right? And I'll talk about the stuff that we did in Warner in a second. Better service management, also known as buy your colleagues a beer anonymously. Let me explain that one. And this is the answer that I used to give people back before I was really honest. Really honest. You build your CMDB so you can do stuff. And I go back a couple of years in my career, and it was all about, I need to reduce the mean time to resolve incidents. I need to have better incident data so I can do proactive problem management to reduce the number of incidents in the first place. I need better understanding of my business capabilities, my services, my application services, so that in the event of an incident, I can identify the root cause. So I went at my CMDB design with that in mind. How do I reduce the time to resolve an incident? How do I prevent incidents by doing better proactive problem management to reduce the number of incidents in the first place? Because I've gone and done my ITIL training, and I was like, yay, ITIL, great. You know? And I'm not knocking ITIL, by the way. You guys can go Google me. I'll dabble. So, yeah, buy your colleagues a beer anonymously. Let's say you succeed and you reduce that mean time to resolve incidents down to that. They're all going to come and pat you on the back and say, hey, you did a fantastic job with that data model. That service mapping you did of those business applications, that was fantastic, and it's because of you our mean time to resolve incidents went down. That happens, right? You guys know that. Or do they give a bonus to the incident guy? That's the reality of what happens. Changes result in less incidents because you understand the impact of your business applications and your services as a result of your data. So you designed your CMDB so you could buy your colleagues a beer anonymously. KPI success stories. Green doesn't always mean green, I heard this evening. What is that, right? KPI success stories. Look at this, I'm green. How about using meaningful KPIs instead? Let's start looking at business impact and design your CMDB based on that. People don't like that. People don't get bonuses for that stuff. Hey, look at you. All your KPIs are green, but your whole business impact here is minimal. You're not achieving anything. And then let's look at ourselves as individuals. This slide is really conceptual. Why am I even talking about this? Because it drives how you technically define your CMDB. Why are you doing it? First of all, set yourself some goals. So what is the thing I need to achieve, right? If a goal isn't clear, you won't reach it because you don't know what it is, or you won't even know when you have. So whilst your colleagues in change and incident are getting all the credit for having fantastic processes, from a conflict perspective, you're probably still getting shouted at, right? And why are you doing it, right? Well, because my boss tells me I'm supposed to do it. In reality, there is an element of that in all the jobs we do, right? And I want happy stakeholders, that myth. Because I'm nice. I'm just a nice guy. That's what I'll do. Or something else, maybe. Hands on heart time. Have we lost our way? Well, how did we get to where we are? So we think as technical people, it's like item, discovery, CMDB 360, service mapping, right? And we can go into the weeds about that from a technical perspective and how I've done that from a Warner perspective. But where do we want to be heading? Don't start with your technology. Start with the business need, and the technology will follow, right? So the thing I care about, the business trinity, competitive edge, brand image, and profitability. How often do we ever think about that from a CMDB perspective? When do we ever design a CMDB based on those three things? Completeness, conformity, accuracy. Those are the things that we tend to talk about, right? I've got everything in the CMDB. Who cares? You know, I've got 25 million CIs in my CMDB. Do you know how many of them are ever used? Like this many. All of the stuff, the glue that sits in between. So we all understand the data model, we've got dependency mappings, we've got service maps, right? Think about the number of CI classes that are not principal classes, right? Think about the number of CIs that are not in a principal class. You're never going to raise an incident against them, never going to raise a change, but they're essential because they sit in that service chain. But all of that glue sits below the surface. No one cares about that stuff. They care about mean time to resolve incidents, less incidents as a result of change, green KPIs, doing really well. We design based on that. Competitive edge. If we have an advantage over our competitors, it helps us be more successful, right? Okay, how do I do that from a CMDB perspective? What's the driver here? Brand image. Well, I mean, I work for Warner, so it depends which side of the fence you sit on, right? You're either a TVN viewer or you're a TVP viewer. Like, we're on one side of the fence. So, brand image. You're trying to make your company appealing to somebody who's ultimately going to put their hand in the pocket and advertise with you. And then profitability. If your company isn't profitable, then you won't have a job building the CMDB anyway, right? So design your CMDB and your technology and your integrations, and we're going to talk about that. Design those integrations, design that platform, and don't be limited by the sales pitch. And this is why I work at Warner, or was. So it was the reason I applied for the job in the first place. So ServiceNow knows nothing about broadcast, nothing at all. So how do you measure these things from a success perspective? How do you map out a broadcast environment? So a little bit of customization. There is a product which is currently semi under wraps. It's going to be going fully live. It's called MESM. And it's Media and Entertainment Service Management. So when I joined at originally Discovery purchased Warner, there were no CI classes that represented broadcast kit. There were no relationships. So I went back to our ServiceNow account manager and said, I would like to be able to map end to end the process of broadcast. So let's say there's an event. Let's say a local supermarket in Wrocław has, somebody's just accidentally driven a car into the front of a Żabka, right? And TVN said, well, let's send a news crew down there. So they go, they grab a whole bunch of kit, they pick up some cameras, they get some broadcast stuff, they take an outside broadcast van, they rush down there, and you're live in 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm outside the Żabka here in Wrocław. The Żabka. A Żabka. I'm outside the Żabka, and somebody's driven into it. And we're just going to get an interview with Zbigniew, the driver of the vehicle. Hey Zbigniew, what were you thinking? Well, I didn't want to queue. So they've driven into the front of the Żabka. Think about that. Pause right there. There was an event. Something happened. We're familiar with event. It's what we do in config and ITSM. Events happen. A CPU threshold was exceeded, or my capacity on that cluster, I need to spin up some new VMs, or whatever it might be. Easy. The event here was someone drove a car into a Żabka. So then what? I go grab some cameras. Cameras, because they're in ServiceNow, right? We've seen those. Yeah, but they're IP cameras for CCTV, and they sit in the facilities asset class. They're not even sitting in the hardware class. So I don't have cameras, but that's okay. As long as I know what they are, I'll just put my cameras in there, right? So now you're misusing and you're now breaking your CSDM because you're using IP cameras to represent $30,000 broadcast cameras. It's a slippery path. So then we go and we talk to, I can't remember who I said, who drove into the Żabka? Zbigniew, I think it was?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Zbigniew drove into the Żabka, right? So now we're interviewing him. What's the first thing we do? We stick a Rhodes microphone under his face. Microphones, they're in service. No, wait. No, they don't exist either. Okay, so we don't have CI classes for those. And that's okay, because that's going to a satellite uplink, because there's an outside broadcast now. Because they, wait, they're not in ServiceNow either. Yeah, and so you get to this point where the entire service you're delivering doesn't exist, right? So, accuracy. Let's go back to our protagonist here, right? Well, wait, have we lost our way? Warner didn't even have a way. Warner didn't even have a way. Brand image, competitive edge, profitability. Okay, so we need to be able to make sure that that camera is available at the right time so that our news broadcaster can pick it up. Easy, let's forget config, let's just talk about asset management for a second. Where's the camera? It's sitting in the store, waiting for someone to pick it up. Okay, what am I going to do? Raise a catalog item request and say, hey, can I book out a camera, please? Sure, I'll do with your ticket 3 weeks. Right? Zbigniew, could you possibly wait outside the Żabka? It's going to take a few days to get a ticket dealt with. ServiceNow doesn't work like this. So you either customize or you work with ServiceNow. So I'm lucky in that I've spent 2 years on the product advisory committee for ServiceNow, so kind of cheating really. Backdoor to the product team, so you can say, hey, could you possibly go do this thing? Your ability to be the first person on scene in a broadcast gives you competitive edge. I'm the first person, I'm the first person to interview. I'm TVN, I got there first. I have no political influence either way, actually, because we have neither channel in the UK. But we're TVN, we got to the Żabka first, we're interviewing Zbigniew. And 20 minutes after Zbigniew's gone to the hospital, TVP turn up. So we have competitive edge, right? Brand image. How is it that TVN are always at the scene first? If I want to know the latest news, whatever that might be. So let's look at the US. We also own CNN, right? Why is it CNN always has that news before Fox? Profitability. If people watch you because you have good brand image and competitive edge, because they know they get the good news first. Advertisers will pay more money, so now you have profitability. So how do I make my CMDB fit that? Because out of the box it doesn't do that. So you have to think sideways a little bit. Ground rules. Understand your audience. And this was kind of talked about, how do you talk to the C-suite? You've got the IT person. Now, full disclosure here, I started my career a long time ago as an IT person. I started as a technical person. I'm a bit of a nerd, if I'm honest. I've also done networking. I've also been head of change management in my previous life for Siemens. And I've done config for a long time. So the view from the IT person is totally different. We're all standing on a different hill point here, right? So your platform, and then you're working in CMDB, right? But when you're standing on top of that hill, the view for you, you might be looking at the same thing, but the view is different. So the key here, the view from your hill is probably different from theirs, right? How do they see us as config people? Design the CMDB based on what they need, not what they want, and think about your integrations. And we're going to talk about CMDB 360 and integrations and CSDM in a minute, right? But all of this mindset, think about the company or the industry that you're in, and then think, how can I leverage something that doesn't exist yet, and how do I make that a reality? Can you speak their language? That's the tricky one. As config people, typically, you're going to be talking about SAN fabrics, Kubernetes clusters. How's your VMware? Citrix, how's your Citrix? Where does that end? We as config people, if we can't articulate that and then represent that in the CMDB, they're going to look at us and say, okay, the data's not good enough. So how do we meet in the middle? Agree the rules. So if you learn how to speak your stakeholders' language, and I don't know if any of you get the reference of where this is from, some CMDBs are more equal than others. CSDM. When you're designing this, understand what CSDM is and what it is not. Everybody uses it as a catchphrase because it makes them sound cool to their boss. The boss went and did some presentation, sales pitch, says in presentation from ServiceNow. CSDM, what is it? Why does it matter? Think about how the CSDM maps into competitive edge brand image and profitability. How do you make that connection? That's tricky. CSDM, make it your stakeholder's best friend. If you understand what it is, you can articulate your CSDM in their language. And communication is your friend, use it, right? And let dashboards and workspaces do the talk for you. And most importantly, don't play CMDB whack-a-mole. Now, I'll give you a real life example for this. When I joined Warner, or Discovery, I sat in my interview, and the guy who interviewed me, he said, this is going to be really simple for you. All we care about is we need to know all of our broadcast equipment, and we need you to document that in the CMDB, and we want to know who owns it and where it is. I said, that's today. That's what you care about today. He said, no, that's it. Once you've done that, we're all good. I said, I promise you, if I had that in the CMDB, you'd be whacking me over the head about something else. Anyone seen that? Somebody's chasing you for a piece of data. I need to know my cloud ownership information. I need to know when the business application is running. Which account is that in? Right? If AWS, which VPC is that sitting in? If you could just get me the VPC information, that'd be absolutely fine. As long as I know which VPC each one sits in and which account, that'd be fine. So you get that information. You go, ta-da, here we are. Here it is. And then they come back to you and they say, well, what about my VMware? What about my ESXi servers? You never asked for that. You're asking me, no, shut up. Your CMDB's junk. So wherever you are in that design, think about what they need and not what they want, because they're going to come back and ask you those questions, right? Where are my EC2s? I mentioned that's my bugbear at Warner. That's the painful for us. Why 16,000 VPCs? Yes, I said 16,000. The whole of your broadcast direct-to-consumer runs in AWS. Translate what they say into what they actually need and build a team around you. Now that doesn't mean go and employ people. That means your team is not just your platform team. It's not just your config team. but it's the people in your company that are going to help you succeed when you're building this. This is all the mindsets of the design. All of this, are we nearly there yet? Where is there, right? Get back to the previous slide. I need a goal. Champions in the business. Champions in the business are probably the people that are kicking you, the stakeholders, the unhappy stakeholders. How do you make those your champions? How do you design something that makes them want the CMDB? It's like, get them hooked, they'll keep coming back for more. Technical partners. That can be the people in your IT team, the people in your network team, the cloud team. That can be external consultants. That can be development partners. That can be whoever it is. Get to know your ServiceNow account manager because you're going to be raising tons of high tickets. And you don't want to be seen as that awkward person who raises all the high tickets. Trust me. CMDB whack-a-mole. Magic ingredients. We'll talk about that picture on the right-hand side in a minute. Let's be more specific. Understand the CSDM, right? So, who feels really comfortable talking about CSDM here? How's it feel to be the only guy in the room put their hand up?
It's brave.
It's okay.
Brave, right? Okay, so, one person's really comfortable talking about it.
I like it even. I like it even.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, I like it. So, at least we've all heard of it though, right? Talkative crowd. Right. CSDM. We've heard about it. We know we probably should know what it is because people talk about it a lot. But we tend to overcomplicate it. How many of you have downloaded the CSDM white paper? Any of them? Yeah, I knew you would have done because you like it. Okay, Eric, of course you've downloaded it. So you've got the CSDM white paper. How many people who downloaded it actually read it? Slightly less hands. Putting 2 hands up doesn't count. You read it twice. So you read it and you go, that's cool. I get what this is. I understand this thing. It's conceptual. It's a white paper. I kind of get what this is. That's nice. How do you articulate it in the language of your stakeholders? If I'm talking to the IT guy, why does the IT guy care about CSDM? What does my Kubernetes person care about that? What does my C-suite care about that? So that's something in your head. How do I build this thing, right? Stay or return to out of the box. Tricky. Warner doesn't have out of the box as an option, or at least it didn't. So building that relationship with ServiceNow and saying, hey, if we're a company that does this, Volvo is not the only company that makes trucks, right? Yes.
Based on your experience.
Sorry?
Based on your experience.
Yeah.
How many times you have to dedicate to understand the language of your stakeholder? Because you say brand image, competitive edge, profitability.
Yep.
They speak their language.
Yep.
If you have one day, if you have 4 hours, if you have 6 hours, if you have 3 years to understand that language,
Time is
based
money.
on your experience, 3 years is too much.
Time is money, right?
Okay.
Time is money.
Exactly. The point is, how much is profitability to spend money to understand the language of my stakeholder?
Cheat. One word answer to that is cheat. And that's what I've done. in Warner. I'm not going to sit and go and learn every technology. I just need to know what they are. Right? So there's some people, so it's really interesting being in this room because there's people I've worked with outside of my company, there's people who previously worked for me, and there's people who currently work for me sitting in this room. So let's take Warner as an example. Warner has, I feel like a terrible manager for not knowing the answer. How many people work in the config team in Warner, guys? 18 people in the config team? Of which some people, so my team, I built my team
Internal.
internally. Crazy, huh? Huge. So why did I do that? So I'll get straight back, I'll answer your question specifically. So you're right. If I have to go and sit and learn every technology, A, I'm never going to do that. B, as the director, it's probably not time. It's not a good use of my time, and it's certainly not profitable for me to go and sit and do, you know, AWS, Azure, GCP, Kubernetes. Actually, don't look at my qualification list on one thing. But it's probably not that profitable to go and sit and do all that training, right? Unless you do it on your own time, because it's certainly not the company's time. So in Warner, I just cheated. Okay, what are the technologies you guys know about? Well, their IPAM data was pretty poor. They had info blocks, but the IPAM data was really bad. So okay, let's go employ somebody who's crazy about IPAM data. So there is a guy who knows some config, just enough, and he's an IPAM expert. There's another guy, Warren, who is understands pretty much every technology, actually, certified in everything. So I went and hired people who were industry experts first, who also knew config. So then I had the ability, so if I'm sitting down with somebody to say, okay, let's talk about your vSensors then, right? And Warner is a very heavy user of VM, or was, it's now moving to Hyper-V, but I've got someone in my team that can just sit down and talk all day long about that technology. If I want to talk about AWS, there's an AWS expert in the team who's AWS certified to the hilt, also knows some config. So I looked at the technologies that Warner had, and I hired people, and now that's crazy, 18 people in a config team? What's the return there? Well, the return is happy stakeholders. Because they don't see, when they're talking to Warren, okay, now let's have a really interesting conversation about hierarchical inheritance from your business application. I'm falling asleep already, right? So they can have a conversation with him about the technology that they're interested in. They're not talking to the config guy, they're talking to the guy that speaks their language. So I employ people. So yeah, you're right. What is the trade-off? It's a difficult one. For me, the solution is fill my team with a whole bunch of config people who can do reactive, proactive config, who can do, they can talk to ITSM, so they can talk to the change manager, the incident manager, they can talk to the IT person about whatever that might be, run-of-the-mill stuff, you know, storage, SAN fabrics, all that kind of easy stuff. But then you can get into some of the exotic stuff as well. It's like, let's have the right people who can talk about that. Say return to out of the box. So for me, returning to out of the box was making all my customizations out of the box. What is that? Well, MESM. Any of you heard of MESM in ServiceNow? Other than me talking about it? Not you don't count. Anyone heard of MESM? No. Right, so, like I said, none of the broadcast industry worked in ServiceNow out of the box. So I created, with ServiceNow and the product team, a bolt-on product that used their existing framework, and they're just in the process of releasing all the new CI classes actually for broadcast, that makes all of my customization that I would have got the platform team to do, or an external development partner, right? Develop it, design it, work on the business driver. What is the thing I need to do? Create a product with ServiceNow, and then get that released as out of the box, so that then they have to support it when I'm doing upgrades. Sneaky.
How many classes more or less? 20, 50, 100?
For broadcast, so you've got a bunch of classes. If you take the parent class,
It's huge, right?
it is huge. But if you think about, say, computer as a class, we'll understand, right? You then extend out, and you've got Linux servers, AI servers, Windows servers, all that kind of stuff. So you've got things like control surface is coming out as a CI class. A control surface is something that you touch. So if you've ever seen in movies or TV where there's someone sitting in a suite and there's like stuff going on, they've got all these monitors, right? They're called production control rooms, PCRs, and then you've got MCRs, which are master control rooms. They're also coming out as classes. The thing that they're touching is called a control surface, and then within control services you've got jog shuttle units and all sorts of boring broadcast stuff. So you start with the parent class. So there's not that many of those. I think there's like 15 or so parent classes, and then those all extend out. And then the whole point is I start with how do I group these things together? There's a particular interesting, so if you want to talk later about really difficult classification and stuff, there's things that are chassis that serve no purpose that you can put a card in, but depending on the firmware does 15 different things. So how do you classify those? So I return to out of the box by making my customization out of the box by working with ServiceNow. And the point is get to know your account manager, and then if it's important to you as a customer, if it's important to Volvo, for instance, as a good example, probably important to your competitors too. And if they can sell it as a product, you're doing them a favor. You're literally getting more revenue for ServiceNow. So they do listen, amazingly, better than they listen to high tickets, actually. Or why don't you suggest it on the suggestions portal? How many people have ever got a result from that?
No.
Right.
So you would like to re-implement it. Later on, you apply the plugin again on the fresh installation, or you stayed with those customizations?
No, so in the case of Warner, I said I'm not going to go live with this thing. Well, there was one thing they haven't done for us actually, but in the case of Warner, I had a conversation with the product team and said, we work in broadcast. We're not the only company. Other broadcast companies.
That's them trying, right? That's the competitors trying.
Right. So the point is, if they can design it with you, they listen and they say, well, okay, is there a business driver here for the rest of us? You know, could I go? I'm Volvo, right? And I want to be able to do this cool thing with my accounts, my cloud accounts, and I want to be able to allocate those things to my business applications. Okay, does that just apply to Volvo? Does that apply to other people in the same industry, or just anybody in any industry? Could I sell that to Warner? Could I do that somewhere else? They've got this customization. Why are my customers making customizations? Could we sell that to someone else, right? So have that conversation. Configure over customize. Seek advice and listen to it. Configuration first, customization second. A lot of people get confused with configuration and customization, right? Configuring something really well is just as complicated as customizing. So you can configure something, but you've technically not customized it. CMDB 360, I find this term reasonably comical. Multi-source CMDB, CMDB 360, out of the box, CMDB, for my industry, at best is 270 degrees, maybe less. It's not 360. So look all around you and think outside the box, right? So if you want to integrate something into your platforms, let's say all the standard stuff. I want to get all my end user computing in there. What are you going to do? You know, Jamf, SCCM, Intune, easy. Service graph connectors, right? Okay. What about your video iPath solution that distributes broadcast video and audio streams? There's no service graph connector for that. So what is there out there that you could be connecting to, that you could work either internally as a platform team, where you can say, okay, what is the thing that we don't know about that would be good to supporting our business trinity? What are those things out there that we can't tap into because ServiceNow doesn't tap into them? And think about those things. What is the technology? What is the thing? I've got a good example. Let's say you've got Palo Alto firewalls as perimeter firewalls, right? And you want to understand which of the things on your network, this is a use case actually that I've worked through. You've got Palo Alto firewalls sitting around your perimeter, and you want to know which of the things on my internal network are internet facing, or at least are accessible from the internet. Any of you guys care about that stuff? Do you ever done that? Have you worked out what's internet facing in the event of a malicious actor trying to hack your network? Right? Yeah? So Palo Alto has that information sitting in its management platform. Where's the service graph connector? There isn't one. Why not? That information is sitting out there. It's just waiting for someone to go get it. Think outside the box. Develop with your business partner, with your development partners, with your platform team, whatever that looks like. And think, what is the thing that I really care about that I don't have today that I actually have the answer to already? The network team already knows what is accessible because all your routing tables exist. For example, think about the business driver. I don't want to get hacked. I don't want my customer's account information getting out on the internet. I don't want our movies that we've produced. You're taking photos, seeing
They're
who's-
listening to you. They're listening to
seeing
you.
who's still awake.
Yeah.
Think about it, right? So we make movies. I don't say they're my favorite. We make movies. I have nothing to do with Joker 2, by the way. Somebody steals a movie before it's released. That's catastrophic for the movie industry. So what happens if somebody compromises our firewalls? So for us, perimeter security is really important. We're using multiple technologies actually to shift a movie. We might shoot a movie in 15 locations, it goes, it gets edited, and then it'll get pumped over to, say, Soho in London, where we've got a big graphics department who will then put some graphics overlay on it, right? If you could intercept that and steal that movie and put it out on file sharing sites, that's catastrophic for us. So for us, privacy security. Hook into the thing that manages your firewalls. Don't think, is there a service graph connector? Is there an API that I can talk to? Is this really easy? Just think, okay, if I'm the person who manages that technology, how do I tap into that? Communicate. And then communicate some more, and communicate some more. Talk to your stakeholders, talk to the people you care about, talk about the people, I'm just in this to get paid and keep my boss happy. Talk to your boss then. Do the things that you need to do, but communicate. Don't just be the platform team, the config team, the people who are sitting doing all this stuff. Speak their language, talk to them. So, success in the dark is the same as failure in plain sight. It doesn't matter how good your CMDB is. It can be brilliant. If people don't trust it, if they don't use it, you might as well have not done it. Now, on the right-hand side here, so I'm going to talk a bit about this. Does anybody recognize this picture? Yeah? But this specific image, does it, or rather this view, has anyone seen this before?
CSDM.
Yeah.
No, this specific product from the third-party company.
Yeah, it's CMDB by M3D, right? It's a good example. Look at the stuff that's around that you can possibly use. I like to use that particular part. I've got no skin in this game, by the way. I've got nothing to do with that company. It's just something that I've used. It's really cool to be able to visualize and communicate in a language people understand. How do you explain CSDM to people who really don't care about CSDM? In my case, a whole bunch of people in my management chain that just really could care less. All they care about.
What's the name of the product?
See My CMDB by a company called M3D. There's other things out there that do it. It's just in this example I've used this one, right? So basically it visualizes. And it's really cool because it allows you to drill down stuff. So I'm not here to sell See My CMDB, by the way, nothing to do with it. But build dashboards, workspaces, and visualizations that speak directly to your management stakeholders and customers. Speak their language. And if you can't speak their language, draw them pictures to help them understand. Is that a dashboard? Now this is a good example here, right? So in this particular instance, I've got, here's my CSDM sitting on the left-hand side. What does that mean, right? Now, so I'm going to pause here. The thing that we are all really good at as ServiceNow platform people, as config people, or asset management is, what is the thing I really care about? I really care about completeness or ownership information. I really care about location data. You know, I want to know where all my stuff is. I want to be able to, I really care about the completeness or the accuracy of my dynamic CI groups. That's great, but what are we not looking at? What's the thing we don't see? So in this instance, and this is what Warner is in the process of implementing actually, I'm not sure when it's going to be live. You take the CSDM domains and you say, okay, on a table by table basis, let's do some clever stuff here. And say, okay, I really care about technical service offerings, as an example, right? So here, I've got my CSDM, I've got technical service offerings. That's the graphic in the middle top row, by the way, right? And then separately, you can drill down in that. So you get a nice little thing, drill down in it. Why does this matter? Because managers understand red, amber, green. You don't have to explain anything. Look, green, good. Amber, red. You're not just looking at the thing. So whether you use this or whether you build a custom dashboard or whether you're using a workspace, think about the business driver and then build your platform to represent the things that mean you don't have to explain technical stuff to the people who really don't care. Really good example. So in this case, I don't remember when I put these slides together, but I don't remember what the red thing is, but I know it's bad. We should go to the optician. So it's a red thing. It's really easy. Make it clear and let your technology speak for you. Build dashboards, build reports that speak at the correct level. Do you care about your accuracy and your completeness of your desktop on demand solution, whatever that might be? You're using Horizon, for instance. Okay, have I got all of my non-persistent VDIs accurately represented, or do I not care about my non-persistent VDIs because I'm spinning them up every day anyway? Are you raising incidents against that, or the image you're spinning it up for? I don't know. That's up to you and your TSM team. But if that's the thing you care about, build something that visualizes that and talks to the people who look after the VDIs. Don't talk to them about the platform that sits underneath it. They don't care. pitch at the right level for their needs, speak their language. And if you don't speak their language, find someone, build your team, the champions in the business. Who is it that you can talk to talk about specifically your technical service offerings? And then how do we fix the red thing? And then when you break down the CSDM like that, and we get back to what is the CSDM for, and we can talk about that in the breakout session, the roundtable later. If you understand what all those different things are, and they kind of understand at a high level, well, I care about sell and consume, right? I care about build, and I care about foundation. Maybe I just care about foundation. You break that down into something they understand, and they've got red, amber, and green at the end of it. Then you, as the technical people, the platform team, the CMDB team, whatever that might look like, you then design your platform to deliver that thing. So you've now got your stakeholder. How do you get happy stakeholders? You talk their language, and you present them something that they actually understand, with a technology that they understand. They don't care about, I've got 25 million CIs. They don't care. All I care about is my VDI is working. That's kind of how that works. So now what? We're done, right? Newsflash, nope. So Usher says something similar, right? It's a journey, you keep on going. Don't overlook the capabilities that you're not using. We're all really good because we all went and did our, well, it depends how old you are. Like in my case, I went and did my ITIL V2, yay. And then some people stop there, and then you hear people, and you can see them a mile off. They're talking about ITSM from a ITIL V2 perspective. Maybe you're Copper or FITS or COBIT or something else, right? Or maybe you're ITIL V3. Those guys stand out a mile, right? I also did my V3, right? Didn't get to master, got to export, but yeah. So I can see when people are talking about that stuff. So speak their language. If your stakeholder did their V2 and they did a foundation 20 years ago on V2, speak that language then, right? But they're limited to the capability of the platform. Let's go back to when I was doing this 20 years ago. There was no ServiceNow, right? We were using Peregrine, I think. I don't even remember. So what are the things that the platform could do?
Yeah.
All the people in the room now. So what are the things that your platform could do? Now this is really weird. Why am I talking to technical ServiceNow people about what the platform could do? Surely that's supposed to come down from the top, and then they say, I want you to deliver this thing to underpin this thing I care about. Manage upwards, speak upwards. Think about, okay, I went to this really fantastic exhibition at Knowledge or a World Forum or a Spock Meetup or whatever it was, right? And I learned about something, I saw something, but I'm going to go learn some more about that thing. Speak upwards, think about the opportunities in your business. Why? Why do you care? Not because you're a great citizen of the company, you might be. Because it's way more interesting doing fun, cool stuff and learning how to do new things, right? So look at the things that ServiceNow can potentially offer. Some of it's junk, if I'm honest, right? It's like, it's just, at best, it's beta. And then they go get you to test it, they fix it. ACCV, who knows ACCV here, right? Okay, ACCV. ACC, basically, I think you do, right? ACC, cool little agent, depending on the instruction set you send on it, does different things. ACCV, ACCM, whatever, right? When that product was first punted around, they wanted Warner to use it. And the idea was we were going to put ACC on every single end user device and pull back all of the software utilization and software metering for the company. Okay, what else can it do? It does this, it does this, it does this. Great, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So I went over to their offices in Hudson Yards in New York and sat with ServiceNow for a week and said, I know what you say it does. I've played with it, I don't think it does. So I sat with them for a week and I gave them a really long list of all these things that didn't work. And then they went away for about 10 months and then they went and fixed a whole bunch of them. And now ICC is actually pretty good at it. Still some issues around identifying product models for Macs, but I'll let them slide on that. So look at the things it could do, and then talk upwards, and then look at the problems the people around you are seeing. So when you make your friends with those stakeholders, what's the technology issue that you could potentially solve, right? With a product. We love to customize and create a solution for something that already exists. And I see that in all the companies I've worked in. Oh, we've got this fantastic bespoke solution that does this, this, and this. And why didn't you just use that? It's been out of the box for 6 years. Well, because in my last company 10 years ago, yeah, doesn't count really. Plan, execute, measure the results. Success in the dark doesn't help anyone, right? So make sure You're measuring and you're communicating. What is the thing that I was setting out to do? Don't measure only the technical. We're all really good at that. I've got 16 million of these. And did your mean time to resolve incidents reduce? Did your number of proactive problem tickets that you raised reduce the total number of incidents because you solved problems before they started? And those are KPIs like those. OGC produced a really good book called Planning to Implement Service Management, actually. Been out of print for a long time, you can find online copies of it. It's the only place I've ever seen ITIL approved config management KPIs. They're pretty vague these days. They're like, oh, go do some good stuff. That book, really specifically, almost none of the KPIs are about config. They're all about the things that you're delivering. Build integrations to support 360. Don't limit yourself to the obvious. I spoke about this one. Think about the technology that you'd like to talk to that you already have answers for. There's stuff in your business, guaranteed, that could be in that CMDB underpinning your business trinity, your profitability, your competitive edge, but you're not utilizing it. If you say you are, you just don't know your platform well enough yet. There is definitely stuff out there that you can leverage. Whether you develop that in-house, you go out to a partner and get them to help you develop it, whatever it is, go to ServiceNow and say, can we build this out of the box? Because if you can do it, someone else will want to do it too. Dashboards, workspaces, and visualizations. Speak directly to your management and your customers and your stakeholders. Keep working on them. Don't just do the thing that most companies do. Don't just say, we've reached success. What's the thing that person really cares about? Do they still care about it today? Because they did last week. Has their world moved on? Whack-a-mole. They care about the thing that you were doing yesterday until tomorrow, and then they don't care about what you were doing yesterday. Communicate. Talk to your stakeholders. Anybody who's still awake, too long didn't read version. Identify what your platform could do but doesn't. And build your technology, your architecture based on what it could do. How do you make, from a selfish perspective, how do you make your day more interesting? I don't want to sit and, I mean, I can think of nothing worse, for instance, than just sitting with someone in the audience already knows what I'm going to say, doing deduplications for months. Hey, Paulina. Thank you. Understand the goal. It's not just good config or good data. Why do you have that CMDB in the first place? The goal is not your CMDB. The goal is the business driver, the business need on the other end of it. Understand your stakeholder needs, not their wants. I want to see this thing, I want it blue, design this form, and I want this to flash over here, and I don't know what applications run on this server, so could you put 15 blank fields here so I can list all the applications that are running on that server, please? And just create relationships and build a service map. No, I just need attributes of people. Tell them what they need and not what they want. Speak their language, not yours. No one cares about CSDM, CMDB. No one cares about your principal classes. Is it a principal class? I don't know what one of those is. You've got a business rule that does this thing, right? You've got a policy. You're using data archiving policies, right? I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to know what my VDIs are doing. Agree the goals and the path to get there in their language with your stakeholder and your management, and measure your progress. Communicate often in their language. You see there's a theme here. I keep saying this thing. Visualize and articulate clearly and early. Because if you're on the wrong path, they'll tell you technically. I'm integrating this, a really good example. There is a product, NetBrain, that was going to be the next biggest thing in Warner. It's going to have, SSH, there's an SSH script that basically goes out to every single piece of network kit, every switch, every router, every firewall, everything. And it pulls back all the information from all the network kit. Why do I care about that when I could just set up an SSH discovery? Interesting politics, that's another thing you have to learn how to navigate. In Warner, the CMDB team is only allowed to discover network equipment once a week, on a Friday morning UK time. Why? Because it's a huge risk to SSH to devices, because potentially you're going to knock them over because you're going to send a command to. Because discovery, in the eyes of our network team, is essentially hacking tools that are designed to take down the network. That's how they see the horizontal discovery, because somebody launched discovery on their environment previously and took a bunch of stuff down. Give me 5 minutes, hold my beer, I will literally take down any device, give me 5 minutes with horizontal discovery, if I wanted to, in the broadcast industry. Walk briskly past a video and go, there they go. So anyway, why did I care about NetBrain? Because NetBrain's not a risk because it's not horizontal discovery. In fact, it issues the exact same commands as ServiceNow over SSH. So I thought, okay, I'm not allowed to scan all your kit. How about I connect to NetBrain, let the NetBrain team SSH to everything, pull that data back, and then through the back door, I stealthily done the thing that I wanted to do anyway. Is there a Service Graph connector for NetBrain? Is there any easy way of communicating with NetBrain? Why? Because any of you familiar with the data model for network devices know for things like switches, routers, whatever, that have got multiple interfaces, you have a separate interface, you have the device, and you have to link all those interfaces and create that model, right? So that's pretty difficult to do. So we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort building this integration into NetBrain. But I was doing it for me, really, because I thought it was kind of nerdy and exciting. I didn't really think about the big picture. Then what happened? Why did you do that, Ian? You know we're retiring at the end of the year, right? What now? You're kidding me? So yeah, had I have spoken to more people about this, I would have known that that thing was going away. Fantastic integration, by the way, for anybody who wants to talk about how to use NetBrain. Just never went into production. Complete waste of money. Deming. All familiar with Deming? Plan, do, check, act, right? Set new goals based on the desired outcomes. Don't polish data you don't need and don't shy away from data that scares you. What scares, so anybody, what scares you? Asha, what scares you? What's the data that you don't have good in your CMDB that scares you? I'm specifically picking on you because I remembered your name. Anything in the CMDB that you think, you know, we really should have that? How's your foundation data? How's your core company table? Green. Same response I always get when asked, how's your core company table? Anyone ever had the fun or pleasure of really digging into data normalization for core company? Probably not. He has. How much fun is that? Yeah, product models. Thank you, Mira. Yeah, duplicate product models. ServiceNow builds all these fantastic service graph connectors, right? And you've got all these service graph connectors using horizontal discovery. Never in a million years did they ever think, what happens if that thing calls it that and that calls it that? So you then dive in, it's like, why have I got 400 Dell latitudes? It's like, oh, that resonated with somebody. I go into my CMDB and I say, okay, so let's say I'm doing hardware asset management, right? Okay, technically that's, I'm talking about HAM now, but let's be honest, right? Config team do the heavy lifting for HAM quite a lot of the time. We go out and we find out all those things. It's like, do you know what? This is coming to the enterprise architecture as well. We do the heavy lifting for that. So let's have a look. I've got this product that's coming to end of life. Okay. How many of those have I got in the environment? Let's take, I'll take my own. My MacBook Pro 16-inch, correct? Model number, blah, 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 whatever it might be. How many of those have I got in the organization? Now, there's nearly 60,000 people work for our company. And I happen to know that you get two flavors of end-user computing. You either get a horrific, actually that's not fair because you guys have got, some of you got Dells, but you tend to get a horrific Lenovo where you get a really good spec Mac. So you know that we, as our procurement team, they go to Apple and they say, I'm going to buy 5,000 of these things, please, and I want them all identical. So why is it when I go into my CMDB, well not mine actually, that's pretty good, you say, okay, they're end of the road now, so I'm going to identify all of those and we're going to phase them out as part of our technical roadmap compliance with enterprise architecture. Got this. Where are my MacBook Pro 16s that are exactly like mine? And I go and say, 7? I've got 7 of them? Really? I thought we bought 5,000. Oh no, wait. Here's another one that looks really similar. Okay, that's slightly spelled differently. Okay, now I've got this thing that says Apple MacBook, and it's got some numbers with a comma in the middle. What's that all about? Anyone who's ever done this knows what I'm talking about. Product family for a Mac instead of a product model, right? So you're playing with that, and it's like, well, why didn't ServiceNow stop and think about that thing? That's the data that scares me, is that duplication of product models. So if that's the thing that scares you most, go start with that. Work out how you're going to solve that stuff. You know, if you're going to use a custom integration from something, I don't know, go and do all the mappings for product models. I'm talking specifically about a ticket that's being worked on right now. Go and do that mapping, go do that thing. Don't shy away from the data that scares you. And choose your team. That's not just the people who work in the platform team, it's not just the ServiceNow people. but that's the champions in your business, your partners, both internally and externally. ServiceNow listen way more than you think they do if they can make money out of you. That works, you know? And don't be afraid to say, hey, do you know what? I want to do something, but I don't know how. Go work out how. There's always a route to most of it. Any questions?
We will see.
Yes. Easy. Okay.
Which one would you pick? First?
Name a few strangest custom CMDB classes you've embraced. Are we limiting myself to Warner here or in my career?
Career.
Strangest CMDB classes that I've embraced. That's a tough one. So
You can limit to one.
I can limit it to one. That's probably easier.
CMDB CI micro oven.
I can absolutely 10-foot devices.
What was it?
10-foot devices.
10 foot?
What is it?
I embraced was the question. I didn't embrace this. I inherited this. So, my predecessor, I had two predecessors because we were two companies. There was a dude called Kevin who ran Discovery, which is the guy I replaced. And then we merged, we bought Warner, and I replaced a guy called Scotty who subsequently became a personal friend of mine and ended up working for me actually. So they had to design their CMDB, and as I said, ServiceNow doesn't support anything broadcast out of the box, right? So it's like, how do we categorize this stuff then? So there's I mentioned earlier, there's a thing about chassis, where you can buy a chassis, and you can put a card in it, and you can configure that 15 different ways, and it can do 15 different things, so you can't classify it based on hardware for sure. It's what it's doing, so you have to define it and classify it based on the thing that it does within that service. But they went around, whoever was in the Warner side of the camp, when they were defining it, said, okay, we work in broadcasts. Never heard of CMDBs. So let's put, that's easy, that's a van, and it's got stuff in it, and it does outside broadcast, so that's an outside broadcast. We're going to have that as a class, that's great. And then we've got cameras, so that's easy, studio cameras. What about that stuff? How do you group that together? Well, and they're American, remember? I don't know what it is in metric, I don't do feet to metric. All that stuff is bigger than 10 foot. So to this day, and it's like it's an ancient relic that you can just about find if you do an archaeology trip. If you go into the CMDB CI hardware class, there is one custom attribute, and it's called device type. And it was how before the new classes became established, and you can see it in there as a drop down on the device type. It's still there, 10-foot devices. And it was literally 9 foot, 9 foot, 8. 10 foot, yeah, so 10 foot items. And that would be things like microphone booms. They're collapsible, so are they still 10 foot devices? And the SOX regulation, how this affects your CMDB or CSDM. I can tell you how it affects the config team, which gives them lots of sleepless nights. So in the way that Warner works is you have multiple tiers of SOX compliance for your business applications. And the way I target it, so I actually manage two teams at Warner. One is my regular CMDB team, which was proactive and reactive config, and then separately a specific service mapping team that was dedicated to service mapping, whether that was using tag-based for cloud. You know, I use the standard ServiceNow decision tree here. Is it cloud-based? If yes, do you have a tagging strategy? If no, go get one. Come back when you've done it, and then go tag your cloud. Right? Is it on-prem? Yes. Is it revenue generation mission critical? Does it use standard applications on standard ports? If the answer is yes, do top-down pattern-based service mapping. Easy, right? Nah, not so much. You have to go and get a whole bunch of Eric. I have to go and get a bunch of people who know how to do this because it's not easy. So yeah, so one of the primary things that we've had to deal with is here's, I don't even know how many business apps they've got, but the SOX, I can't remember how many SOX compliant SOX applications did we have to deal with, right?
So there was around 200,
Yeah.
and it was down to 160 or something like that.
Yeah.
And most of them are on-prem.
Yeah.
60 something like that is in the cloud. Rest of our
Yeah, so we had to go through all of our SOX applications and then say, okay, we put them into tiers of importance, tier 1, tier 2, let's start with tier 1, let's go do all those. And we put in, yeah, there was, like Eric said, there's a handful that were cloud, a whole bunch were on-prem. So that's how I had to set up an entire separate team to build the SOX. What utility does ServiceNow present for the purpose of DRM? Ooh. So we're talking about DRM in the perspective of the broadcast industry, right? Who asked that question?
Digital rights management.
Say again?
I was meaning digital rights management.
Okay, tricky, right? Tricky. So the content that we deliver that ultimately is what is subject to DRM. At the moment isn't supported by ServiceNow, but it is under MESM. And there's a maturity path that you have to go through to deliver full MESM. So first of all, you have to be, you go through ESM, FSM, and then you do MESM, right? And when you get to the point where, and this is really difficult to explain to people who don't work in broadcast, you watch TV and there is a thing that you're watching. You buy a movie that you're streaming, and you are watching a product. Our product is sound and light and movement that is coming out of a physical device. So that product moves from a concept on a drawing board to somebody filming it, or scripting it, filming it, editing it, or in the case of live broadcast, they just go out and shoot the stuff, right? So whether it's scripted, we call it scripted or non-scripted content. The DRM is on scripted content, actually. ServiceNow doesn't really support DRM particularly well for our industry, but it does under MESM, and it relies on you having end-to-end workflow from where does DRM start and where does DRM end? So we tend to think about it from a digital perspective. I've got this end product which is going out to my consumer, and I need to make sure that they can't copy it, and that they can't distribute it or stick it on Pirate Bay, other file sharing sites that are available. So we think of it there, but actually it starts somewhere back in the workflow. So in broadcast, there's a thing called a clock synchronization. So the digital product actually happens further back for us. So DRM needs to start somewhere in that digital production lifecycle. ServiceNow doesn't support that out of the box. It does in MESM. We're the only company that's even looking at MESM because we created it, but we're not currently using it. So yes, it technically supports it. Is it doing it for us today? Not right now.
Thank you.
I mean, it was.
We are all running out of time, so thank you very much. Let's take this. Yeah. I need to mention that there is a small merchandise provided by ServiceNow. Ian, no, don't disappear. Thank you very much. Thank you to guys from ServiceNow for bringing that to all our speakers. Thank you again.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Guys, so only 2 minutes, unfortunately, because we are running out of time. So roundtables need to start right now. So let's split quickly, and then go to roundtables.
You get a number from this guy.
No, for beers and